Great. Well, welcome to this seminar. Let me just introduce Shireen. I first met Shireen a couple of years ago when she came to the UK, and we bonded over having four children and over loving the Middle East. Shireen is Director of Community Outreach and Development of the Bethlehem Bible College. As part of her work, she manages the work of the Shepherd Society, which is the social outreach arm of Bethlehem Bible College. And you can Google it. They've got a great website, talks about a lot of their projects. She's got a passion for humanitarian and development work, and the work with the Shepherd Society enables this to be put into action, offering both emergency assistance in the form of food, medical assistance, and so on, as well as durable solutions like job creation and microfinance projects. And most recently, the crisis in Gaza, Shireen has been really up to her elbows involved in serving there. And what we've asked her to speak about, as well as more broadly her wider work and what we can learn from it, is some of what she's learned from serving God in that really horrendous situation in Gaza over the last few years. Because, as we keep saying, working on the edges of tough situations are so often places where we learn and we are instructed and we grow, and we really want to learn from Shireen today and listen to her. So, Shireen, thank you so much for being with us. Welcome, and me hand over to you.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And before I begin, I would like to share with each one of you that I will be very transparent and very open to sharing what I, as a woman, Palestinian Christian who lives now in Bethlehem, how do I feel? What is happening in my life? I will share my experience much more than what is, much more than high theology, because every time, we meet with people, people talk about the theology from different perspectives. I am not a theologian by no means, but I work at the Bethlehem Bible College, so I'm used to such a language, let's say. Today, before we talk about Gaza, remember, I mean, the topic I was given is, the crisis after Gaza. What did it teach us, the crisis after Gaza? And the first thing that comes to my mind, or that it's not like I'm criticizing the title, but it's not what happened after Gaza. Gaza is still going through hardship, is still going through ethnic cleansing, and there's still genocide taking place in Gaza. And before I begin, and I want to share with you my story, I would like to share some information that is very important for you to know. And I will start with how many people were lost in Gaza. And then I will talk about what are we doing in Gaza? Who are the organizations and the churches that actually stayed in Gaza and worked in Gaza? Will Gaza be evacuated one day, or will people stay in Gaza? So, according to the UN and according to OCHA and many other humanitarian organizations, over 72,000 people were actually killed in Gaza. And we have thousands of them that are not found yet. And unemployment is very, very high. I mean, if we say everybody in Gaza does not have a work. And before I go to Gaza, I want to bring you a bit to Bethlehem, because I live in Bethlehem. And Bethlehem is the highest rate of Christians live in Bethlehem. But yet, there are crises. After October 7th, many things have changed, and they changed to in a very negative, negative results. One, I would say unemployment in the Palestinian population, Palestinian community in general, is 27%. Unemployment among young men, graduates, is 30%. And unemployment between, I would say, Gaza and Bethlehem or the West Bank is about 75%. So we're talking about a nation that does not have a job, a nation that is almost starving, a nation that is persecuted in so many ways. And one of those ways is actually occupation. Before I go also talking about Gaza, I want you to know that we are so worried because what's happening in Gaza is moving into the West Bank. I'm not sure how much you know about the West Bank or Bethlehem, but Bethlehem now is in the West Bank, and Bethlehem is surrounded by so many different settlements. Unfortunately, the Israeli government just recently approved 34 settlements within my own city or my own West Bank area, which means every single kilometer, we have a surprise of a settlement. And that really worries me because, as Andy mentioned, I have 4 children and they're all young. I have a 9-year-old, 13-year-old, 16-year-old, and 18-year-old, and they're all petrified. Just recently, I opened an account because it's summertime, as Andy, I was chatting with Andy. I just opened an account for my youngest son, who's almost 10, just a messenger to send me some messages while I'm at work. And I received one of these days while working, and I was so busy. And I received a message from my son saying, Mama, I'm scared. I am afraid of Israel. And that broke my heart because we're supposed to talk about peace and reconciliation. And yet, what would my answer be? My answer to him was, don't be, Mama, I will protect you. But in reality, it's not really happening. I don't see any kind of protection now because the settlers are given, a carte blanche to actually kill or hit, break, and do whatever they want just to control the property of the West Bankers or the Palestinians. It's very sad. Let's go to Gaza. When we talk about Gaza and the many people that are lost, the lives that were lost in Gaza, I would like to focus on the Christian population in Gaza. Keep in mind when we talk about Gaza, Gaza is not a new invention, is not a new city. Gaza has been there. If you talk about the church in Gaza, the church is over 1,000 years old, meaning there has been people and there has been Christians in Gaza. But yet in 1948 and 1967, during the Intifada, the Nakba and the Naksa, many people moved in to Gaza. So basically, we're saying that Gaza has already had refugees and also had indigenous people. My mother comes from Gaza, and my story to you today is very simple. It's a personal story where October 7th killed all kinds of hope. What happened in October 7th? My 2 uncles, aunt and uncle, were hit by a bomb in Gaza, and they both were killed. And my third aunt, where her hip was out and they had to do hip replacement with no anesthesia. So we're talking about horrible things that happen to just normal people that are peace lovers and peacemakers and church attenders. We're not talking about the criminals and so on. So we question why, where is the moral? What is behind what's happening in Gaza? Why are people not acting, or why are people not speaking the truth? So we go back to that discussion. So Gaza had about 1,100 people live in Gaza. Now over 50% of the Gaza Christians, I'm talking only now, they left Gaza already. Meaning we are left now with less than 500 Christians in Gaza. We have a great ministry in Gaza, and we only have now about 90 children, Christian children in Gaza. And unfortunately, people are seeking to leave in any way possible. We try to serve Gaza to the Muslims and Christians, but we're also caring for the Christian community. And why is that? Because we don't want our churches to turn into museums or into mosques. And this is very important. So we care for the Christian community. Who works in Gaza? Many agencies like the Catholic Relief, Caritas International, the Orthodox Christian Charities, Church for Middle East Peace, and the Vulnerable People Project, and many other small or big organizations work on Gaza. Now, what I want to share with you today is so simple and basic. Every time we get guests or people talk to us, they say to us, where is hope? And I want to talk to you about how should the church, stand, or how do we look at the church? And the first thing that comes to mind is actually theology of anger. People would think, what kind of theology you would like to talk about? I would look about to theology of anger. The Western Church will believe in words of reconciliation and forgiveness in order to achieve peace. However, the first thing that comes to my mind is theology of anger. I am so angry about what is happening. I cannot beautify and I cannot talk about reconciliation and forgiveness before I talk about justice. And I am a Christian. I'm talking to you from what's called the from my own faith. I have been part of the church since birth. So this is very important. Every time we're at church, we talk about, forgiveness and reconciliation. But we never thought that we will reach that point that, we're so persecuted, so many people killed for no reason, many innocent people killed. And then comes to the fact that the Christians all over the world say, how can you have hope? And hope, to a great distance, has become so colonized because, we don't see hope. And this is something that is so important. I wish I can beautify things to you today and say everything is going just perfect, but the truth is not. The truth is that the church is silent. The truth that our sisters and brothers see us as criminals. The truth is that our sisters and brothers are justifying the killing of innocent children. Is this from God? We need to ask the question if this is from God. And therefore, when I talk to you guys, the first thing that comes to mind is the theology of anger. We are okay to be angry. Jesus himself was angry in so many ways, in so many cases. Why don't we talk about that? Why do we have to make things as if nothing has been taking place? No, it's not. And I'm taking from the Gospel of Mark when it says he looked around at them in anger, but in anger and deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, said to the man, stretch out your hand. He stretched it out, and his hand was completely restored. He was frustrated. He was distressed. And when we talk about the temple and many other stories and so on. Now, what also comes to my mind, the young generation, the younger generation, my students at the Bethlehem Bible College. And every time we talk to our students, we talk about hope. But at the same time, we talk about reality on the ground. How can I achieve both? I want to actually read to you some of the poems my students wrote. One of them called Anthony, and he said, "Ya Rab." Ya Rab means God or my God. In the midst of these uncertain times, make your justice fall down like rain and nourish this dry and covered in scars. God, I hope you hear the screams of the wounded loud and clear as we listen to them from here. Our beloved ones' cries echo louder than sermons. Where is the Holy Spirit falling on us? Because all we see are missiles. Where is your holy fire? The only thing being burned are tents. I lament the homes that are turned to rubble and the dreams that have turned to ashes. The holy soil is soaked in the blood of the innocent, and the olive trees no longer blossom. And that's a young man who actually is only in his 20s, sharing his sorrow, his bitterness towards what is happening. Another poem from Lama, and she's a lovely theologian, by the way, young theologian called Lama Mansour. And she goes and talks about God who left our burdens. As we encounter selective empathy in our brothers and sisters across the globe, as we hear that our lives matter less than others, as we witness people's apathy to our death, sanctify our anger and let it not turn into bitterness. Help us comfort these lies with truth, love, and kindness not shown to us. We, as a young generation, my students know and see that they're not even treated as normal human beings. And that breaks the heart. And imagine those who live in Gaza. And therefore, that's why today I'm addressing you with the theology of anger. I am angry. Lord, where are you from this rather than say, oh, it's okay, let's be quiet. We cannot be quiet. And this is very important. There are so many times that you, my dear friends, I'm not talking, of course, I cannot generalize when I talk about that. Please don't get me wrong. But there are so many times that we're trying to justify things. We're trying not to take sides. I am so sorry to tell you, in such situation, Jesus himself took sides. We take sides because we want the truth. We want people to know that this is right, right from wrong. And therefore, I urge you, my dear friends, to open your eyes and hearts and pray for the people of Gaza. It's drastic, it's dramatic what is happening. So let me give you some stories of hope, decolonized hope, I call it. Hope does not come only with words or definitions. When we talk about hope as well, we talk about action. To us is practice. So we have been as part of the Shepherd Society, and I urge you to actually get the time to know about the Shepherd Society. Shepherd Society is the social arm of the Bethlehem Bible College, and since day one, and listen, my dear friends, since day one, we immediately responded. We responded with the first thing that many people used to ask and are still asking for is food. And then after food, we started with a clinic. Unfortunately, now Gaza, even after, there has been, let's say, a ceasefire in October, they say ceasefire in October, just a few days ago, a whole family was burned into ashes because of the missiles coming into these families and so on. So we also continued with the clinic, but now not so many medicine coming to Gaza. In December, we held an amazing campaign trying to bring at least 200 prosthetics for the children whose legs or parts are amputated because of war. And we actually were so successful to raise the money. But guess what, my dear friends? Israel is not allowing any prosthetics to go into Gaza. There are over 2,500 children with no arms or legs, and yet they're using plastic um, tubes whatsoever just to replace, and some of them are only using, what do you call it? Like to hold on. But we could not get the prosthetics into Gaza. So pray for the Shepherd Society that one day we will be able to get the prosthetics into Gaza through the UNICEF and elsewhere. We're also working in something that is very, very important. And needless to mention that I, Shireen, believe that the whole nation, all the Palestinians, there are almost 7 million, are traumatized. And we need to find, someone to help. So the psychosocial programs are so important. We started in Gaza with a psychosocial program only for the children now. And we also did what's called in a school, an afternoon school. And we're only teaching 4 subjects, English, Arabic, math, and science. And remember, our kids did not go to school for so long. We're not a school, but we just did a program just to strengthen the knowledge of our children. And why is that? Because to be honest with you, and you all need to actually question and test yourselves on that. If we leave our children as is now in the current situation, I cannot guarantee you that the people of Gaza will be peace lovers. I mean, if we get more people to be mad and angry, you cannot blame them for that. So besides doing food and parcels, which is very important, I mean, if we look at the Maslow pyramid, for example, the basic need should be met to be able to meet the other needs, which is food. So we do food, but at the same time, we do psychosocial program because we want our children, the Palestinians, whether Christians or Muslims, to be peace seekers. rather than war seekers. And this is very important. This is something that we all need to pray for. This is a whole nation. We're talking about 2 million people, trapped in this small piece of land. And yet Israel is now thinking of continuing to ethnic cleanse because they want to take 65% of Gaza, which does not leave space to these 2 million people to survive. Besides that, we also do job creation, and I don't like to call it job creation because we're only giving some pocket money to our volunteers in Gaza where they distribute the food and they are in clinics and we have 10 teachers and so on, part of the job creation. So this is what we do in Gaza. So today, my dear friends, I questioned the theme I questioned the theme as I mentioned. This theme is still going up to this day. It's not what happened before, and now we're trying to continue. Unfortunately, we're in the midst of the suffering. The suffering continues. Thousands remain displaced, and recovery is about restoring lives, not just rebuilding buildings. And this is very important. We have two main tasks: one, restoring lives, and two, restoring buildings. Justice, healing, and peace are still urgently needed. But if we want to have peace, there should be justice. This is very, very important. So I have little faith that international law will rebuild Gaza. But you know what, my dear friends? I believe that the people of Gaza themselves can rebuild that. But I want to also share with you a few of the things when I saw the topic, or what my discussion was. I challenged myself, so I decided to go to my staff. I have a staff of about 15 people, and I asked them the question: what the crisis in Gaza has taught each one of you separately. I would like to read some of their answers. One, there are people who wake up every day not knowing whether they will survive until the end of the day. Children are meant to live their dreams and play in peace, not to grow up surrounded by fear and war. Resilience does not mean absence of pain, but the ability to continue despite the wounds and the loss. And this is why I said to you today, I am not putting hopes on international law as much, because we failed as even international. Israel did not listen to us as a community of believers or as Palestinians, as humans. In a world full of pain and justice, we hold on to our hope as Christians in the name of Jesus Christ. So even despite of the despair that we have, we still hold hope, but hope in our Jesus, not hope in governments on others or leaders. Hope that Jesus will rise again and say, you know what? He is resurrected in the hearts of the people of Gaza, in the hearts of us, even people who are complicit about what is happening in Gaza. So, my dear friends, I really urge you today, and this is my message to you: don't let Gaza become a distant memory. Pray for Gaza. Act for Gaza. Let your anger at suffering and injustice move to an act. And this is what happened to me. I was so angry. When I lost my uncle and aunt, I could not speak for 2 whole months. And then the Lord spoke to me and he said, is this the way you want to show your anger? Is this the way you want to continue? Be silent. And he said, never be silent. And that's why since October 7th, I was never silent. I wanted to share it with people and I want to tell them my story. This is my story. And I want you to be ambassadors to our Lord Jesus for justice and for peace.